On this week's GTA 6 o'clock.
They would release a trailer or a press announcement sometime in the next 7 days.
We have the potential of Disneyland, 4 new screenshots, and potentially the GTA 6 box art. How will GTA 6 collaborate with big brands? A new leak debunked. Plus, breaking news that 4 new screenshots are coming very soon. It's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock. Hello and welcome to episode 23 of GTA 6 o'clock. My name is James JJ Jarvis and I'm joined by Dan Double D Dawkins. Hi,
hello,
Dan.
hello.
So, episode 23, lots to go through this week and some really interesting things to get to at the end or near the end of this episode. But we should kick off, as we have been doing for the last couple of weeks, with our countdown to the 2K earnings call. There is 1 week to go until that. It is next Thursday, if you're listening to this on Wednesday, of course, which means we could get something this week, Dan, potentially. We interrupt this episode to bring you some breaking news. Rumours are circulating that there could be as many as 4 new screenshots and potentially the GTA 6 box art on the way very soon. This has come from a Twitter bot that scans the Rockstar Games website and API looking for anything about GTA 6. This bot has picked up Rockstar adding the general GTA 6 path to their frameworks on rockstargames.com to prepare the pages. There are currently links to 4 screenshot pages and the cover art. Currently, the cover art link just returns a 404 error, as expected, but we do have a URL, and if there is box art on the way, we'd expect it to look like the GTA 6 version of this. Of course, there's a counter-argument that the path to the 4 images are default for all of the URLs, so this could be nothing. But, given the timing and the proximity of this update to the investor call, it feels more credible. And if these updates are in preparation for new images, then we'd expect them to drop within the next 7 days. We will, of course, be covering everything as it happens, so subscribe, stay tuned, and follow us on Twitter at GTAV o'clock for breaking announcements. I've been James for GTA 6 o'clock, and we will now return to your regularly scheduled episode.
Yeah, we were discussing this off air, that if there's going to be bad news hidden within the earnings call, it would make sense for Rockstar to get ahead of it. So in which case you would think they would release a trailer or a press announcement sometime in the next 7 days. Given the days they do things, we had this conversation about the day you do things when it came to the trailer. That would probably narrow it down, I think, to like a Thursday or a Tuesday. So like the Thursday after this show, the Tuesday after this show, or possibly even the Wednesday, like the day before the earnings call. Let's see. Keep your eyes on those days. It could be as well that the earnings call is ambiguous, where they don't emphatically say the game is delayed, but there's some kind of fudging of the projected numbers which leave it open to interpretation, like is it slipping, is it not? But there's like if it was definitely moving out of the financial year, it's too big a financial hit to hide. So I think that's where, if it's emphatically moving out of the year, it's possible we'll know beforehand.
Yeah, or all of the internal conversations are, we're going to do it, don't worry about it. Let's see where we are at the end of next quarter. But for now, let's keep rolling on and we'll pretend that end of March 2025 is when we can get this out by. So we'll see one way or the other. So yeah, 7 days, big hot news incoming. While we're talking about 2K down, we should touch on the shuttering of some of their studios, which will obviously be reflected in this call as well, you would think in some way, or at least talked about. Intercept Games and Roll7 are like the development studios. So they made Ollie Ollie World and Rollerdrome.
Yeah.
So they have been shuttered as part of what Take-Two are calling a cost-cutting plan.
Yeah, and we knew this was in the post. This was talked about at the previous earnings call where Take-Two said they were looking to create cost efficiencies, I believe in the order of like 5%, which doesn't sound like a big number until you realise how huge they are. So, slicing 5% is in the order of closing a number of super acclaimed studios. These cuts seem to be almost entirely focused around, the stuff we've seen, around Private Division, which is essentially their indie games label.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, like we work with and know people at Private Division, so I think this is especially difficult and hard to talk about because it affects people we know and is deeply sad. I guess in the big picture, for a company the size of Take-Two, it's not to say that Private Division is like a rounding error, but it's like the preponderance of their business is GTA, and clearly that's prioritising is what they're doing, and they're seeing the indie market or the indie market as served by Private Division as not in their future plans. Now, like Private Division themselves haven't been dissolved, like they still exist, and it could be that it's just that the plans they had in place are all being reset, studios let go, and then maybe Private Division reconfigures as something else. But it's just a very, it's a sad and emotive issue. What is shocking is that the world of games can no longer support a company like Roll7, who less than a year ago were on stage collecting a BAFTA Games Award and being nominated for various other awards. And then clearly, that someone's looked at their numbers and gone, this business is not viable, or it's not what Take-Two wants to invest in. Maybe it's that, it makes money, just not enough money. And that's, all businesses are about margin. And they might have just gone, the margins aren't high enough for the amount of work we do, so we're just going to cut it loose. It's really sad. And I guess with the most selfish hat on, you might go, well, at least it hasn't affected GTA. But of course it hasn't, because GTA is the cash cow.
Yeah, that's where you're putting all the eggs.
Yeah, and it's sad that a company the size of Take-Two can't bank the mega profits incoming from GTA to support interesting standalone indie games and single-player games in a different end of the market. It's a less nuanced portfolio. I don't know what else to say without getting a bit annoyed and or angry, but
sure,
it's sad. And I don't know if there's any other lens to look at it through for GTA listeners.
No, I don't think so. What we can add is there was an article on PC Gamer which had a statement at the time of recording that there's no official announcement about the closure from Take-Two or Intercept Games at this point, although a statement from Take-Two indicated that the Private Division publishing label, rather than Intercept, continues to make updates to the game. This is regarding Kerbal Space Program 2, which is the upcoming game from them. Following the Bloomberg report, the Kerbal 2 Twitter account posted a cryptic message: "We're still hard at work on KSP2, that's Kerbal Space Program 2. We'll talk more when we can." So there's obviously a lot of internal things going on. People who are like, want to say things but can't right now, and they have to work out, all of the timelines like you were saying and stuff. But yeah, overall, a lot of good games that were in development or, have been worked on for a time are on the edge right now. Not going to affect anything to do with GTA, but as it's their parent company, it's worth talking about on this podcast.
Yeah, and it does. I guess this shows that's where that slightly ambiguous commitment to cost cutting has ended up. It's really sad.
Okay, let's move on to something a little bit more upbeat. And last week's episode about the Prologue prediction that I talked you through, Dan, you were positive about it, I think, at the end, and lots of other people in the comments and on Twitter and even in emails also quite positive about it. So thank you all for indulging me in that piece of creative endeavor. Lots of people also sent in their own theories and their own ideas for how the prologue or the first mission might play out. We will go through all of those on an episode at some point in the future, in the next couple of episodes. Not going to do it in this one because, as you can imagine, you saw my version of it, Dan. Some of them are quite involved,
yes,
and are quite long, and takes. I don't want to just read them out. It'd be nice to do something a bit more creative with them and try and show them in a similar way to how we did my one, to give everyone a bit of a sense of what people are going for.
Is there anything you can tease for me or the listeners about any ideas you thought were particularly good, or do they deserve a full, unabashed hearing?
Oh, now you're asking. All right, hang on. Well, let me give you a little bit of a snippet from Jeremy James Burr sent in one of his suggestions. And this opens with, in his envisioned scenario, the game opens with either Jason or Lucia being stopped for a routine traffic check by a police officer suspecting them to be under the influence, administers a roadside field sobriety test, and this sequence could cleverly integrate a tutorial for players to optimize their look vertices reminiscent of the calibration process in Halo, where Master Chief adjusts his visual sensors.
Yeah, when he's breathalyzed at the start of Halo.
Well, yeah, where you get Cortana going,
Yes.
hey, look up, and whichever way you press on the joypad,
Yeah.
that is then your up axes. I think that's a nice way
it's cute.
of doing that thing. It might give you some more button prompts of like, we're doing these kind of. There's a little hint there of a different way that this thing could open, and you could see it opening with a car speeding down the road, sirens going, they're pulling over, and then you're basically right into the action. But it turns out you haven't robbed a bank yet. You've just been pulled over because you got a faulty taillight or something.
Yeah.
So much more on that to come in the following weeks, and we will go through them on a episode in the future. One other thing I wanted to touch on while we're doing something a little bit different is we got sent another email this week, which normally ends up in the bin. But this was one of those, you'll probably know this, Dan, get a lot of emails from like research companies that send you a load of like weird statistics and percentages about, this video game character is the most popular in the world, and this company you've never heard of have done a survey.
Yeah.
So it was one of them about the GTA 6 trailer, which said GTA 6 trailer sees characters break the law 25 times with a crime committed every 3.6 seconds. New research has revealed that the trailer for Grand Theft Auto 6 sees characters violate 25 different US laws in just 1 minute and a half. And as I say, normally I would say this just has to go in the bin and we won't even talk about it. But actually, some of the crimes that they outlined I thought were interesting to talk about, and some of the sentences that you get specifically in Florida. And then in a minute, there's something particularly stupid that they've written in here. So some of the crimes: brandishing a weapon, reckless driving, jaywalking, first-degree burglary, street racing, indecent exposure, using a weapon in a threatening manner, destruction of property, theft of services, dangerous driving, second-degree burglary. There's a lot of those things. I mean, they all happen in the trailer, as they've said. But for something like getting out of a moving vehicle on a highway, so there's that clip of the guy in his big green car who gets out.
Yeah.
That you get 5 years in prison. You can get up to 5 years in prison in Florida for that, for repeat offenders. So, once is okay, but don't keep getting out of your car.
Well, it's deeply stupid. Good.
They even went down the bit of the destruction of property is the man breaking a table. So that one clip in the trailer where he's clearly in a backyard wrestling thing, breaks the table.
Yeah.
If that table was valued over $1,000, 5 years in prison. It's not, by the way. The trailer is not that valuable.
No. Can you imagine being the enforcer of broken tables at frat dues? Like, what a job.
So, I can see this is going in the stupid direction already. So let me read this bit out to you, Dan, and see what your reaction to this is. So there was another thing in the trailer. The 2 alligators could also be tried for burglary if, in court, the gators were proven to have an intent to steal. In fact, the second gator entering the cafe would face up to 15 years in jail, or the naughty cage at the zoo, they've put in brackets for comedy effect, as the property was occupied when the reptile started the robbery. So, there you go. We're arresting alligators now in a trailer because they were clearly going into the convenience store to rob it and weren't just wandering in there.
Wow, 2 cops, Ace Ventura, good cop, bad cop, with the 2 gators, Dr. Dolittle. The fact that that is even a thing, it blows my mind. And I look forward to the alligator police investigation scene.
Well, I look forward to some hot alligator chat on one of the upcoming episodes. I'm sure we can find a way to talk about all the things that the alligators have done wrong.
What I do find funny from all of this is when GTA Online becomes a thing and we embrace the role-playing community even more, I think it would be deeply amusing to play the equivalent of a car park ticket attendant or some sort of joy inspector in GTA, who just goes around going, "Oh, excuse me, you've broken the table. That'll be a fine of £5,000." Like an infractions officer. That would be like, I mean, that person would be hated, like many people who have to administer otherwise sensible laws, but that might be an amusing role play situation.
That's interesting, because the way I saw that going before you finished that sentence was we were going to have to go back to your one of the very first theories about the trailer, and it being from the perspective of an otter or a trash panda or whatever you decided that was going to be. Like the entire trailer was.
Oh yeah, I don't feel that strongly about that theory, so that was more a bit of fun.
So speaking of things that have been sent in to us, I wanted to have a little look at an image that has been going around on social media and was also sent to us from the world of Levine via email. And they sent us this image, Dan. Now, for people who are just listening on Spotify or other services that aren't YouTube, this is an image of a woman with blonde hair on a beach. Looks very much like Miami Beach, and it's obviously blurry, slightly blurry, but it's got some on-screen prompts and things, and it was basically sent with the question of, is this a new leak? And if it is this a screenshot from the first-person mode that obviously I talked about in the, hey, maybe the Prologue's going to have a first-person mode? So I think we can quickly answer the two questions here. There are some positives to this picture, Dan. I think we had a quick look at it before we came on. The positives are that the text at the bottom, like there's a lot of like debug text there at the bottom, and the text in the top left that mentions video memory and that kind of thing. That might look familiar if you have seen any of the leaks from 2022 that had a lot of this on-screen furniture on at the time. So from that point of view, those two bits tick. Could be a real image. Now, from the negative point of view, we've got the map in the bottom left, which looks nothing like a GTA map and has a lot of black on it, and there's palm trees at the side of what I'm assuming is a beach road, but who knows. The Vice Beach text above the map also looks a bit weird. The image is blurry. It also looks nothing like the other leaks. And ultimately, it looks like an AI generated image, right?
Yes, I mean, so much. The on its own, in isolation, you could glance at it and go, holy macaron, this is an image from GTA. The beach looks right. She looks like she belongs in the world of GTA. Like you said, the telltale on-screen furniture is that ring of truthiness, that concept we keep coming back to of it's close but doesn't really bear up to inspection. All of that feels fine. But then when you start to really dig into it, there's just too much that makes it make no sense. I mean, even on the most basic level, the furniture tells on there, you know, the video memory thing, for example, that was actually on the proper leak that we know was a leak back in 2022. Now, it's fair to say at that stage, the in-game footage from that leak, truthfully, I don't think didn't look very good, because it was of a really early dev build, right? Like, I was actually astonished when that footage came out, like, oh my god, it doesn't look very good. But of course, right, and, you know, loads of people rightly told me off because this is a game like in a testbed form. It's not how it's supposed to look. So if they're trying to say that, you know, this on-screen furniture is the same and it's from the same build or something, well, this game looks like light years ahead of that leaked build. But even without that, the image really is here's a beautiful woman on the beach. She looks like your absolutely archetypal, generate me an AI woman, AI prompt, woman walking down beach with bikini, sunny day. It just looks like that. And everything about the shininess, the way she's designed, it's all like, you know, it's male fantasy stuff that these AI engines absolutely major in. And then there's also a trope around, to produce a leak, part of the tick box is it must be slightly blurry.
Yes.
To make it look more authentic, and also to make it a bit harder to read the stuff that might actually be a tell. So you can, you know, for example, you can see all the stuff on the bottom row, but it's all kind of fudged and hard to read, which is quite deliberate. I think quite deliberate because
100% deliberate.
Because then you can't call it out. And once upon a time, blurriness, a blurry screenshot used to be almost a positive signifier of a leak, because it would be something genuinely. For example, they would do a press preview day or a debut day for a retailer like GameStop, when physical retail used to be important, and people would genuinely take spy cam pictures with not very good mobile phones, and that's why leaks looked blurry. Are you telling me in 2024 no one has a phone that could sharply capture a leak? Like, where do we believe this was taken from? Like, off a monitor? Was someone like about to be arrested as they took the shot, and their otherwise brilliant smartphone didn't sharpen up the image?
That's the other thing, right? Because what their brilliant smartphone has done here is managed to blur out all of the stuff around this monitor and just have a massive black space as well, which also is a big sign of like, well, it can't be on a monitor because the monitor doesn't exist. So we're just going to put a load of black behind it.
Even the fact the image is on an angle, it's all designed to look like it's got all the things
like
that
slipped it out your
subconsciously
pocket and gone, oh, quick.
Subconsciously to make you think this looks like an authentic leak because of the way you've been trained and the tropes around leaks. But in this modern world, I don't think those tropes are true anymore, because phones are so good, direct capture is so good. It's much more likely to be like a data intercept and a literal one-to-one leak. This is what happened. The September 22 leaks were, behold these bits of footage and you can see everything.
Yes. Yeah, none of that is blurry.
When the trailer leaked, it was literally the trailer. It wasn't like it was, captured at a jaunty angle in 480p. It's just ripped. Like, that I think that would be a more clear sign of a leak now, is that it looks breathtakingly accurate.
Yeah. So all in all, this is a massive fake, and we're going to put the big fake stamp on it.
Shh.
Do not believe it. Also, as you mentioned, like, why would this one image come out now, like right now, and why would it just be this one image? Why isn't there like a little video clip or something? None of it makes sense. So,
I mean, what does make sense is there's a whole, of which we are part of it, there's an entire industry of people looking to make hay and engagement from GTA. And one way to do that is to cook up a plausible image that people retweet. It gets your account more followers. And this is why I further think it's fake. Like, you never see these leaks with, oh, look, it's a picture of a chair, or it's a really wrinkly old man. Because people don't want to retweet and share images of wrinkly old men. I hate to say it, or chairs particularly, right? But we know this is a fact. Like, images of attractive women get more engagement, particularly amongst men. So this is why all of these leaks, and we did a little Twitter search off air, there was another image from this set of leaks with another attractive woman. Well, fiddle-dee-dee. That's what I say.
Well, stay tuned for GTA 5. GTA V o'clock on Twitter, and let's see if we can make our fake chair GTA. I'll just get on the AI generator and get them to do a GTA chair, and let's see what happens.
Well, there's a good test. Can we make a chair or a wrinkly old man sat on a chair go viral? That's a test for. In fact, you might be able to help us out in this. If you can create that image and share it with us, we will doctor it and see if we can make wrinkly old man on chair go viral.
All right, so the big topic I wanted to talk about this week, Dan, was what collaborations do we think Rockstar might bring to GTA 6? Now, you might think I've plucked this out of thin air, but no. This was inspired by the Formula One this weekend, which took place in Miami, that I was watching. And surprise, surprise, just before the qualifying show started, they always play a little highlights reel of, what's coming up, the city that it's set in. And obviously this was set in Miami. And lo and behold, what happened? Then the Tom Petty song came on with a load of images of Miami. And then they even went a step further to show some of the trailer images, but obviously in real life, and put some of the Formula One stuff, GTA-ify it almost. So if you were following us on Twitter, you would have seen that video, but I think we can probably play you a little clip while we're talking about it. We're not going to put the music on it because we'll probably get copyright.
Because you'll never have heard or said anything else we've talked about.
Yeah, so we can just run it in the background, but you can see that it's actually, it's definitely a a homage to the trailer rather than a direct representation. And I think what's probably happened here is somebody from the Sky Sports F1 team is a big GTA fan, has gone, hey, the game is set in Miami, the race is in Miami, this is my chance to make a little homage F1 Miami / GTA 6 pastiche, so I'm going to do it. And everyone's like, oh, that's genius, well done, fan of GTA. But they even went a step further and created a GTA-looking 3D model of one of the commentators. You can probably put this image up on screen now. So they had, like, Sam Collins was the guy's name, and they had basically turned him into like a GTA 6 style character just for his little intro. So they really leaned quite heavily into this whole thing. And I thought it was a good jumping off point to think of what other collaborations they might be getting involved in the future. And of course, as Rockstar Intel mentioned, GTA Online got in on the action as well, with the current GTA Online event, which kicked off on Thursday, was headlined by bonuses for the open-wheeled races mode, which is basically just Formula One racing. The cars such as the Benefactor BR8, basically F1 cars, and the race series has got mechanics in it and tyre wear and that kind of thing. So it's a pretty tight collaboration, if not an unofficial one. But they're clearly looking at world events, going, the F1 is in Miami this weekend. That's where our next game is set. So why don't we make this GTA Online event like the F1 and sort of just run them in parallel?
Yeah, I think that's the core point, is that it's not, I don't think all of this is an orchestrated official link up with Rockstar.
No.
But they were both Sky, the production company, and Rockstar looked at the racing event in Miami and went, how do we see this? The production company would have said, what's going on in Miami? How could we theme our event this year? And someone would have gone, well, the next Grand Theft Auto set in Miami. And they went, love it, go. So that pastiche gets launched. And then the other way around, just Rockstar going, well, we're going to be in Miami. It's the Miami F1 this weekend. What can we do in our game? So like those two things, they're both interpretations of the real world event of F1, one officially made by Rockstar, though ironically they don't have the official licenses, and then the official F1 is pastiching Rockstar. So again, this sort of culture smush of different things happening all at once. What it does show is, I guess, the huge cultural appeal of GTA, which is by this stage, almost goes without saying. And I guess it does start to hint towards, at what point do Rockstar start to lead these events and officially reach out to people like the F1s of this world and the big properties. And I guess this is where, we've talked about this on the show several times, the Fortnite-ification of the entertainment world and how so many brands are clamoring to be part of the Fortnite universe. This feels like if you're at Rockstar, this is where you want to be. And so this is not, they haven't done this officially with F1 yet, but is there going to come a point where they go, we actually want F1 in GTA, we want to do part of the live event broadcast from our GTA Online, etc., etc. And I think that's what I would be astonished were this not be where Take-Two want to go.
Yeah, this time next year you can see we're back in Miami for the F1, and there is an official collaboration, if the game is out, where you can go and either, like you say, watch the race within GTA Online or take part in your own F1 type event that's all, officially branded and badged and that kind of thing. So, yeah, absolutely. We also had an email from Sam Power. Thanks for getting in touch, Sam, who asked a couple of questions which we can quickly cover off, saying what stage do you think the game is at the minute? And like GTA 5 and Red Dead 2, do you think there'll be retailer exclusives such as extra DLC, early access, etc., steelbooks, and all of that kind of thing? I think we briefly touched on this on a previous episode when I mentioned there should be an inflatable crocodile in one of the special edition packs. But I think, as we've talked about, the game at the minute is in, we would imagine, rigorous bug testing. And, what Rockstar would call its final stages, but actually those final stages probably last about a year.
Yeah, I dare say that, the game is in almost always like content complete, but the process of like optimizing, bug fixing, squashing could be a 6 to 12 month plus campaign. And I say content complete, like some of the things may be an absolute mess. Like, we don't know. I don't know. It would just be looking at the scale of these productions and how long a sort of debugging and crunch period takes, given how obsessive the audience will be if the game launches in a buggy way, like a Cyberpunk or something else. We know people, developers at major AAA studios who'd said, someone had said to me last year, they were working on their major AAA release up to 48 hours of its release. And they said bits of the game didn't work. That is mind-blowing to me. But I think that's the reality of high-stakes, ultra-lavish game development now. And I think as much as Rockstar will try and mitigate for that, that's where we are. And, so what does that mean for the inflatable crocodile or the map? Well, I mean, probably that's the work of another team, but is it the priority? No, they've got to get the game ready.
Yeah.
And getting the game ready for launch, and because of all the money and everything involved, that will be the focus. So I imagine they're in a state of a little bit of finessing and maybe a bit of content changes, but it really is about crunching, optimizing, making perfect, moving on. I've never worked in a dev studio, so if you have, please email and correct me and say, no, it would be like this and it would be like this, or in my experience it was this. And that's to assume every two studios are alike, right? You just don't know. When we went into Rockstar North just before the launch of GTA 5 and GTA Online, that was just, it was all bug testing. It was just all looking at screens and going, it was ridiculous, 1,565 bugs identified, 300 squished. And it was just there. It's a relentless bug squashing exercise.
And a lot, even at that stage, a lot of those things they're not game-breaking bugs. They're just if you do this very specific thing at a certain time, this thing doesn't quite work. So it's not the whole game's going to fall apart if they don't do it. It's just trying to get it to as near perfect as possible.
Yeah, so if on mission 57 you swing a sword and it hits this post, the sword always gets jammed on the post.
Yeah.
Which would be, if it happened to you, deeply annoying. So you've got to play the living beep beep out of stuff to try and break it. A playtester's job is horrendous. They have to play a mission 1 billion times, deliberately trying to break it in the most obtuse ways. To test the parameters of the world, because as much as you think people will play things a certain way, they don't.
Now, Sam also sent us on our collaboration talk a couple of interesting job listings. Now, the first couple, I think, are just general things, but are worth just touching on. So there's currently on Rockstar Games' website an open position for an associate designer for open world events. Rockstar San Diego is looking for talented developers with a passion for game design and making open world content. You'll be working as a member of the design team with a focus towards exploration and interactive open world content. Now, I'm not saying that any of these are related to GTA 6. They could be related to other projects and things, but it's interesting to know that they are looking at open world events. There is also a listing for an illustrator. The creative services team works on all creative related to Rockstar Games and games publishing. This can range from creating key art and in-game art for our games through to branding, merchandising, and everything in between. Now, that one is quite interesting, related to what we were just talking about in terms of branding and merchandising. There's one more that's a technical designer for missions. Part of the design scripting team, you'll be using in-house scripting language combined with a visual editor to design, implement, and maintain story missions. Now, if I was going to go right out on a limb, I don't think those are going to be story missions. Even if this is related to GTA 6, I don't think they're story missions from single player. They are probably story missions of what they would consider to be in GTA Online at this stage. But then the extra interesting one is a branding designer. Rockstar Games is seeking a talented branding designer to join our in-house creative team at our NYC headquarters. Project includes clothing graphic design, merchandise, and other general branding-led creative. We are looking for someone that demonstrates a distinct vision and an acute awareness of how to visually communicate brand identities across multiple mediums and formats. So if we take this all the way back to what kind of things could Rockstar and GTA 6 be collaborating with, you'll remember that for Red Dead 2, they collaborated with that clothing company, Barking Irons, to make a load of actually nice
Yeah.
Red Dead 2 like shirts and jackets and things. Is there something like that? I mean, surely something like that is going to happen for GTA 6, a really like high-end bespoke collaboration, of which I have a few examples of in a minute. But what about other big world events like the F1, Dan? I went to see Hamilton this week, locally. Do you think something as big as that could enter a GTA game? So like in 4, when we went to see, you could go to the comedy club and watch Ricky Gervais. Could we potentially go and see like something as massive and culturally significant as Hamilton inside GTA 6? Like, could you go to a theater? It's been on in Miami. I checked. Do you think something like that, or someone, something of a similar level as like a comedian that everybody knows is on in a certain bar/comedy club?
Yeah, I think like we talked about previously in this episode and on previous episodes, I think this is Rockstar's ambition. You think they would want to create a Fortnite-style, a metaverse, really, right? Where it can be a destination where other things take place. And that sort of work requires, it's a significant branding commitment, because you have to make sure it's all aligned across not just how your game assets, how they look, but how your partner's assets are integrated within that game universe and across their social media and your own social media. It's just an enormous like templating and design job. So there's a lot of interesting lines in the job description talking about people who are comfortable repeating previous brand things and also forging new identities. So, yeah, I think this is all part of their roadmap. Like, do I think, day one, Hamilton will play in GTA 6? No, I think I can't see that level of, like, huge Drake-style mega activation being in GTA from the get-go, because they almost need the platform to settle. Like, the last thing they'd want to do is worry about upsetting, say, Drake's people whilst the game might be on fire, for example, or, like, the people can't log in properly or whatever happens in, the modern connected world. So, but I think on the roadmap, I can see stuff like that happening, but I just wouldn't expect it day one. I think they want the focus to be on the game, not on the long tail, obviously, at the start.
Of course, being in what we are assuming now of the state of Florida, we have the potential of Disneyland, or a version of Disneyland being in the game, and everything that comes with that Disney association. So there's also the potential for, Marvel, Star Wars, Simpsons. Like, Disney own a heck of a lot of properties these days. So it could be that, even the GTA 6 version of Disneyland ends up having some of these collaborations within it. So, like we've got the Star Wars bit of Disneyland right now, you could see that swapping out to be, now we're going to put another one of our IPs in here and you can go and ride the Wolverine ride or whatever.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's also interesting because GTA is like a super adult property at core. Like, it's an 18 rated, crime-based, violent, sexy, etc., etc. But I guess this has been a similar challenge to the one the MCU has addressed, where something like Deadpool it's not suitable for children in any way. So the MCU has had to wrestle with reinterpreting a lot of its properties for age-appropriate audiences, and that might be what GTA has to do. They have to create almost like the tweensy version of GTA as part of a branding thing. And I guess, that's been explored by games like, the Lego open world games have done it the other way around, but like maybe even an official younger GTA game. I mean, this is, it's a whole other conversation and podcast, but you can see someone on his marketing board has got a 5-year roadmap where, GTA 6 Tweensy is launching with a collab with the popular streamer or influencer of the day. It sort of fills me with absolute dread and terror, but I think someone will want this to happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just before we go, the collaboration, if those people are listening and the branding and marketing collaboration team want to take a punt, there is a clothing company called Gaucho, which was founded in Argentina, but has recently opened its flagship United States location in Miami in an effort to expand its footing. And just like the name, the brand stylishly focusing on the Gaucho figure while merging its rich history with contemporary culture. Sounds right up Rockstar's alley. There is a jacket on their page which actually looks very much like a jacket that you would get. You could see it buying it in a shop from Miami in game, and I would very much like this to be part of some kind of special edition. Unfortunately, they start at $2,500, and the real nice one is $3,500.
Oh,
but
blimey.
it's that kind of premium range that I would expect to see.
And allow me to confirm that James is not wearing that jacket today, contrary to what you might believe, unless he's got it in his house. So if Gaucho have got to you, James, you just hand that jacket in when you're ready.
I would very much wear one of these jackets. If anyone from their marketing team is listening and wants me to say how lovely it is, please do send it over. But with that, Dan, I'll say thank you very much for being on the show this week. Thank you everyone for listening. Please put your comments in the comments below. Contact us on Twitter at GTAVOclock. Get in touch via email. GTAVIOclock@gmail.com. We will collect everything and we will be back next week for what could potentially be a very special episode relating to when GTA 6 might be out. So we will see you next Wednesday at 6 o'clock for another GTA 6 o'clock.